Actually, it's all comes down to, do you experience God? Do you experience something of the divine? And if that's the case, then all these other things are kind of extra.
I would say that when we were Unitarians, we thought of God as something external.
Wow.
And when we become Quakers, we think of God as something internal.
So some of the basic tenets that I was trying to express, yes.
Along the same lines, and I hope this doesn't sound too ignorant, but I mean, do Quakers as a whole consider themselves Christian, a Christian faith, like Jesus Christ was a divinity, the Son of God, or is that up to each person to decide for themselves? Or
Our founding is in the Judeo-Christian tradition, so I would say we're Christian-based. That's where our roots are. Our roots go back to before the church, so the dogma, the creeds that are not part of our structure or our understanding of our faith and practice. Jesus is regarded as an important person who had wonderful messages that we read about and is part of our worship and is important. The Bible, if people wonder, the Bible is a source of great inspiration, wonderful stories, historical records. It is contemporary today. The messages in there are used, but our understanding goes beyond the Bible. It didn't stop when the Bible was written. It goes on. Revelation is continuous today. So, does anybody else want to say something a little more about that? Because people come to Quakers from different traditions, and some people from the tradition of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and whatever. But it's not part of our creed or our practice. Caroline, yes.
I'm a Quaker.
Yeah.
Someone bought me this shirt. I
Yeah.
didn't buy it. Yes. I've been a Quaker as long as Larry's been a Quaker with me. Excuse me. But I wanted to say something, or have you say something about practice.
Go ahead.
There's faith and there's practice. And I just want to share the history quickly of the people that influenced Larry. He was a physics major, and I met him as a freshman, and he went off to Princeton, and the rest is history, which you sort of alluded to. The gentleman and his wife were there were Marion and Nelson Fuson, and they were Quakers out of Philadelphia and all of the separations, etc. So I sang in the choir and worshipped, but this was the time in 1960 of grave segregation, and I was a part of the sit-in movement. What I want to say about practice is that Marion and Nelson had us come into the house, talk to us. We had German professors who were out of Germany, and they talk about those people who went to the historically black colleges. There are all kinds of people there, and it was open to that. When it was time, on April the 19th, which is not to bore you too much, but it's coming soon, and I kind of have it as a big holiday, we decided, all of the schools, including the medical college, as well as Scarrett, Methodist colleges, Scarrett, Peabody, Vanderbilt, Meharry Medical College, Tennessee State, all in Nashville. We decided we were going to go, not on Martin Luther's cause, down to the city, town, and say, we must integrate the Lunch campus. After we must integrate. The important point I'm telling you is that there was black students, everybody. I was one of the last one. My daughter said, why? I said, because I was practicing my recital music and going to get married to him in June, and I could not be running in the streets and having my mother kill me before everyone else did. So I was the last in the line, but it was fine. They said, Carolyn, you have to come. Everybody's coming. When we got along the line, I'm not going to cry when I heard Larry speak, though, because he was really kind of agnostic and scientific and then things about space. And I couldn't believe what he said today, and I was very moved. But I think that the Fusons are listening to us, Larry, because they stood with their children along the road. So when policemen came, they would not hose us down, they would have to hose them also. That was their Quaker practice. So I thought this was really fabulous. And we had no deaths. When we got to the center, I have it, I'm going to have to frame it. They said, integrate the lunch counters. And I think the power, oh wait, I must have said something wrong, I'll probably take it too long because my Quaker friends over there are trying to figure out where this is going. The point is that the practice part is critical, and no one spoke particularly about that, and that's all right. So I didn't do the practice part because when we go to bed tonight, I said, why didn't you say what I want to say? So I said it myself. So that piece of practice is critical, and I didn't catch on until very late, very much later in my life after the church. One of my friends simply said she was a birthright Quaker. That's me. She was born into that Philadelphia, Texas. And she said, Carolyn, you think American Friends Service Committee is Quakerism. You go to church and you think what we do to improve the world and the war. That is not Quakerism, just as Eric has said. Quakerism is inside you. And so I had to grow, as Larry said, and have the revelation, and it helped to have children. So all of our children, and we have a third generation of grandchildren who are, quote, birthright Quakers. Our son, whom we adopted, became a Quaker, and we didn't have a reception. They welcomed him in 1972 at the Cambridge meeting. But when he died of cancer, bone cancer, because we couldn't give him anything, he went out saying, Mom, let me go. I'm all right. You know I'm a Quaker. There's something about the spirit that has held us together. And Larry said the words that I never knew, because he doesn't tell me what he's going to say, so I was trying to read it on the phone. And it's the revelation. It's that ever-evolving revelation. And as I begin to wind down, I hope that I'll be grateful. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for what you all have said. It's taken me another inch along. And the questions that you ask are real. So I just share that. It's just faith, but it's also a lot of practice. And that's what the Fusons do.
I do thank all of you for coming today. It's just, thank you very much. But take a couple more questions if you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Here, and then there. Sorry.
If it's fair to say that Quakerism started with Fox, and I don't know that it is, you can comment on that. Are writers, are there prominent Quakers? Is it even fair to say to sort of guide the religion? I'm bumbling with words here because I don't really know how to characterize the concept of, the organization of Quakerism. Did it kind of stop with Fox, or have you had an additional, I dare not say prophets or anything like that, but additional leaders that come out with new concepts? Or has it all been independent revelation since Fox with its guiding principles? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. There have been serious writers all along the history. Because one of the things that Quakers understand, they understand this two-part thing, that there is a unity beneath us as human beings. Quakers feel there is a sensed unity. So no matter how much you think of someone as an enemy, they aren't an enemy. So there's something underneath which is permanent and unifying. But George Fox died. They would say about Jesus, they would say Jesus died. Christ's part's the eternal part. So you can't do anything about George Fox. He did what he had to do in his time. You can't do anything about Rufus Jones, who was a great writer in the middle of the 20th century, because he wrote what he needed to write and do what he needed to do, including feed German children and that sort of thing. So the question is always, I know what the Bible says. What do you say? So you're responsible for now. They were responsible for then. They did what they could, and if you find something valuable in that, use it. But yet, don't use it by saying, well, he did it, so it must be good. You say, he did it, and I'm doing it. So there's always writing, yeah, and some of it sinks and some of it goes up.
I think what Eric is saying is that there is no official prophet or head of the church, but we all are inspired on occasion to give vocal ministry and to lead a movement. That's the practice part. And there are a number of other contemporary people. John Woolman was certainly one in his time. There's a guy, Steer, Douglas Steer.
Brian
There's
Drayton.
Brian Drayton was.
Yeah.
So yes. Did you ask?
I have two questions. The first one is sort of playing off Carolyn's comments about, I sense there's something in the spirituality that begs the question, do you believe in an afterlife, or is all of life and its importance now on earth and personal responsibility?
That's a good question.
Well, my take on that has always been, some do, some don't.
Okay. There you go.
What does your inner experience leave? Most Quakers on their dying bed, when they write about it, they used to have a whole culture of writing about their life. So some would say, in essence, they would say, I don't know if there's an afterlife or not, but if there is an afterlife, I expect to enjoy the rewards of it. Because I did the best I could. But, you know, there's not the same, since there's no, as Molly told you, there's no dogma, there's no creed. That's not something that anybody, any one person, no matter how strong in the movement they may be, can say with certainty about.
I have a more frivolous question. I heard many years ago that the deed to this library, since the library was started by Quakers.
No.
Is that
The
not
library
true?
was not started by Quakers.
But finish your question.
Okay. Oh,
There
that's
were
interesting, because I wonder why. Anyway, what I had been told several years ago was that use of the library space had many opportunities, but dancing was forbidden. Where did that come from?
Oh, I think it sprang from that simplicity, that dancing was frivolous, I suppose, and music. There was a period of time. Quaker practice has ebbed and flowed in different ways at different times. And there were times when no music, no dancing, no art, that kind of thing was
Puritanical.
considered as, well, it was just considered as perhaps clutter, getting in the way. And so it was discouraged, but no more. Not contemporary.
Also, the context in which that comes out of is, where did you see most music? It was in bars and taverns and saloons. Where did you see most art? It was in the houses of wealthy people with fancy furniture and all this stuff that nobody else could afford. They didn't want to have anything to do with that. They thought, if that's what you're looking for, if that's your treasure, then your treasure is on this earth. And they said, that's not where the treasure for being human is.
Could I add something about the concept of the afterlife? The point is, well, for me, is that the expectation is that you would then live in joy forever. And forever is kind of a long time. And I'm not quite sure that it should have the same value as having a finite life. Having a finite life means you have to use that time wisely in order to not just throw it away. And that's let's say the pleasure I get of trying to use my limited amount of time wisely and seeing what I can do with that limited resource.
Yes.
Is there any larger organization beyond the local meeting, like a national office or?
Yes,
You
for
have
sure,
an annual
yeah.
conference?
In order for these small meetings not to, get lost, there is a structure. I mean, we are held accountable by a monthly meeting. That's the meetings of all around the Cape, the three meetings. These meetings are gathered together in a quarter, every four times a year, and the quarter includes all the way around Buzzards Bay, the meetings over in Mattapoisett, Dartmouth, New Bedford, Marion, we're all connected. And then all of the meetings in the quarters are connected to a yearly meeting, and they get together once a year. These are meetings from all over New England, Connecticut, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island. And then the yearly meetings are under the care of is it Prince Road Committee? Well,
No,
anyway,
after that, there are larger associations so that we stay in touch. The
And
idea
even
is to-
international associations. So yes, you can stay in touch with Quakers all across the planet. Yeah.
To each meeting, people are in the hierarchy of responsibility in each meeting, or not? Is there someone who's like,
We'll all do it. We all take turns.
Well, like she was clerk of the local meeting, and then she was asked to be clerk of the monthly meeting,
But it's took a
he's
turn.
been clerk. These jobs change as needed. Sometimes somebody is the only person that you have in the meeting that can be responsible for all that. So they stay clerk for a long time. And other meetings are big enough so that they can regularly shift. And they would come to you and they say, nominating committee is looking for you to be clerk. And you say, ha, not me, I don't have any of the qualifications. And they say, doesn't matter, that's how you learn it. And that they're noticing you and your strength. So an important part of living together in this community of worship is that you notice when somebody is getting strong or you're helping somebody who's getting weak.
so there is a hierarchy of responsibility? Somewhat.
Yes, somebody, yes, we ask one person to be the spokesperson for the meeting and to gather the sense of the meeting because you have to go somewhere.
Well, in business.
In the business part. Not in the worship part, but in the business part.
They don't, I think that what we're all sort of cringing over is the word hierarchy. These are basically responsibilities that are parsed out. So yes, the clerk has more authority, has more weight, but not always.
I only bother being clerk.
Yes. Yes. But you try and distribute it, and you try and find people to share as best you can.
We will stay here and answer other questions if it's time to wrap up, but you've had your hand up for a very long time.
Yeah, an example question, I guess.
Go ahead.
But so around the world, can you give us a feeling for, there certainly must be some diversity of practice.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
can you give us some sort of feeling like,
I will try to be quick.
where,
Yeah. There are more Quakers
It's a big
in
question.
Africa.
No,
There
that's
are more
fine.
Quakers in Africa than anywhere else on the planet.
Okay.
And that was something I learned. There are just briefly, there are two branches of Quakers. The Quakers that are here across the street and mostly in New England are what we call unprogrammed. We don't have a programmed worship. It follows the British tradition. But as Quakers moved across the country, started to settle in the Midwest and in the West, they became more scattered, and where some families were isolated. Quaker families didn't have another Quaker family or meeting to go to, and Quakers in those places tended to join in what were community churches. People of different faiths would come together and form a community church because they were so isolated, and they came together to do that. And that is started a kind of a second branch, a different branch of Quakers. where they will call themselves churches. They'll have a pastor that will give us a message. Their fundamental beliefs are the same, of that of God in every person and the interconnectedness of all peoples. But they will often have a pastor, and those groups did a lot of missionary work. Went to South and Central America and to Africa and formed missions to do good, there's churches and hospitals and education things. And that's what is largely in Africa. So it's quite different. You'll hear about Quaker churches. There are more Quaker churches in the Midwest and also in the West. Former President Nixon was a Quaker. He was a member of a Quaker church, but not as in the form that we recognize it here. I don't know if that answers your question, but yes. And
Is there any financial responsibility for the upkeep of the building, or if there is?
yeah, that's what the community is all about. We all pitch in.
You all pitch in?
Yep, we all pitch in. We have a treasurer sitting right there.
God doesn't
But,
pay for everything.
No, God doesn't pay for everything, it just, wish you would, yes.
But one of the consequences of not having a minister is your financial responsibilities are a lot smaller.
Yeah, and
But
that's
there's
true.
no-
Although this is a historic building.
There's no
Hardly.
collection plate though.
There is no collection.
No, free will donation, there's a box there, we usually
We don't
forget to
pledge.
mention it. No pledge, no, so we just know what we need.
Well, some do. But the way we do it is in business meeting, which we usually have every month here, you set a budget for the year. This is what you expect, and maybe some expenses that you say we want to be prepared for. And so everybody in the meeting knows that it's, X amount of money. And some people pledge. I mean, they don't do it publicly, but they're giving every month. They're giving a certain amount, just like a tithe. But again, it's their responsibility, and we don't expect people who don't have a lot of money to give very much. But amazingly enough, when you do it that way, where everybody's responsibility is assumed given what you have and what your commitment to the meeting is, aren't we in the black?
It seems to work. It seems
But
to work.
one other thing, when we do major repairs in West Falmouth, we get help from West Falmouth. Just people who like the building or sentimentally the story. We have glass in there, John Ross's barn glass, his pieces of glass are in the windows of the meeting house. People have given a lot
Slow
of money.
Hodgson said, when you're repairing that shed, I want that roof to be done right.
There you go.
And cedar shingles. Thank you, Slow.
Yeah, so the community of West Falmouth, the village, for whatever its motives are, have also aided Friends right along.
Yes.
You said that this building was not given by Quakers?
Yeah, you know about that.
No, what happened was most Friends sooner or later became Protestants of one sort or another. Revivalism took its toll, what Molly was talking about, as the expansion took its toll. Also, you have to remember that when you want somebody else to take some responsibility off your shoulders, that's when you go to a church. Friends aren't a church here, they're a society. So they're not going to take that responsibility up. So what happened was the people, the sisters and the women who started this library had grandparents who were Friends. But by the time they got around to making the library, and the story is in the Book of Falmouth, if I'm right, one of the people who has a very small child talks about the origin of the library. And it's a great story, you should read it. But none of them were Quaker.
But for this building, when the library came here, D. Wheeler Swift, whose picture is there, who was a Quaker, provided the money for the building, and his second cousin, Lydia Swift Mullenhall, provided the land which she inherited from her father. So in terms of this building, yes, Quakers funded it. In terms of founding the library when it was in the attic of somewhere and so on. No, those young women were not Quakers. But the West Falmouth meeting community provided this building and the grounds. I don't think we helped on the renovation though.
I wanted to say, I know there are other members of the meeting in the audience, and if there's anything that you are going to be walking out the door saying, why did you say that? This is your only chance to do it. Because we do have other members of the meeting. Abigail.
I'd like to address the question about why our meeting is not quiet now. It depends totally on the meeting. I went to a meeting for many years in Madison, Wisconsin, which was a big meeting in a very political city. And anytime anything political happened that brought up pacifism, it would count on over 100 people being there, and it would be what we call a popcorn meeting. Talk, 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 talk. This is a very quiet meeting. I like it that way. But if you're experiencing that there's a meeting where there's nothing but talking, there are those, but there are other ones where that's not the case.
And when we have a lot of talking at our meeting, we realize that we need to provide a forum for people to talk, and we will have dinners or after meeting speaks and gatherings and things like that to let people speak and what they need to say, and not have it be in the worship part. So there are ways to accommodate that.
I wanted to call you about something else anyway.
You might gather from this that we are a friendly bunch, and we are. And if you want to hang around with us for a Sunday morning or two, all you have to do is come and sit.
It's pretty simple. Thank you, Sally. Thank you very much, everybody, for preparing.
People ask about money, and I think practice and service, some of us serve on boards. I'm on the Quaker United Nations board. And so some of my money goes to underfunding my travel to New York. And so when we say, do we do such and such, we give money that we may not give to this meeting, but I've been 30 years on the American Food Service Committee, and so when I go there, I pay part of my fare or something like that. So it's a wonderful system for me. The treasurer may not know, but my income tax people do know. Thank you all for coming.